She didn't scream. She smiled. As the fire consumed the room and her classmate writhed in agony, she stood outside, watching it all burn. No one ever imagined the shy, quiet girl could do this. But revenge is a slow poison, and hers was set ablaze. She was the kind of girl people forgot was even in the room. Always seated in the last row, hoodie up, headphones in, eyes fixed on the ground. Teachers rarely called on her. Classmates barely noticed her unless they needed a pencil or someone to blame for a missing assignment. Her name was Lena Cartwright, a 17-year-old who moved through Crestwood High like a ghost. But even ghosts have eyes. And Lena watched everything, especially her. The her in question was Brielle Thompson, the golden girl. Captain of the debate team, a near-perfect GPA, and more followers on social media than most local influencers. She had that effortless popularity that made teachers adore her and classmates envy her. But behind the smiles and the polished charm, Brielle had a darker streak, one she reserved for those she thought beneath her. Lena had become one of her favorite targets. It started small, whispers in the hallway, giggles when Lena passed by, a mocking nickname casually dropped loud enough for others to hear. Creep Cartwright, Brielle had called her once after catching her sketching in the art room. From then on it stuck. Others joined in. Online messages followed. Anonymous questions on social apps that asked if Lena was a stalker or a freak. Of course, everyone knew who was behind them, but no one said a word. No one ever did. Lena never responded. She never cried in front of anyone. She just kept quiet, kept sketching, and kept watching. Her notebook, once filled with nature drawings and old comic-style illustrations, slowly changed. The drawings became darker. Charcoal sketches of people screaming, buildings burning, and silhouettes standing over twisted shapes. No one ever looked through her notebook. No one ever asked how she was. But beneath the surface of her silence, something was building, a twisted combination of pain, rage, and obsession. She began to follow Brielle online, reading every post, watching every live stream, replaying her TikToks as if decoding a message. It wasn't admiration. It wasn't jealousy. It was fixation, pure and dangerous. She memorized Brielle's schedule, her friend group, even the days she skipped classes to go out with her boyfriend. She knew where Brielle parked, where she ate lunch, and how long she stayed after school for extracurriculars. Then came the day it all shifted. Brielle posted a video. It showed Lena walking across the library lawn. The caption read, "The girl who stares at you like she's plotting a murder." It was meant to be funny. It went viral, for all the wrong reasons. Comments flooded in, "She looks like a school shooter," "Creep vibes FR," "Why is she even allowed on campus?" Lena read them all. And that was the moment something inside her snapped. From then on, her mind turned completely inward. What began as passive pain became active planning. She started journaling obsessively, not in words but in images. Page after page of twisted, nightmarish scenes where the girl who mocked her burned, screamed, and begged. It wasn't fantasy. Not to Lena. It was rehearsal. She spent the next several weeks preparing. She learned the location of every security camera in school. She figured out which teachers left early and which buildings were least monitored after hours. She researched fire accelerants, studying which were most effective and hardest to trace. Then she stole a master key. No one knew how. Maybe she picked it from a janitor's pocket. Maybe she found a way into the staff room. But she had it. Her behavior in class changed just slightly. She smiled more often, sometimes at nothing. Her drawings grew more detailed and disturbing. In one, Brielle was depicted surrounded by flames, her mouth open in a silent scream. In another, Lena stood outside a burning building watching it glow. Still, no one paid attention. No one cared. She began testing things. Leaving her backpack in a room for 10 minutes to see if anyone noticed. Locking classroom doors and timing how long it took someone to open them. She practiced pulling the fire alarm without setting it off. Every action had a purpose. Every step brought her closer. Then she chose the location, the old art storage room behind the main studio, a place that hadn't been used in over a year due to a broken ventilation system. It was perfect, out of sight, isolated, and stocked with enough flammable materials to feed a bonfire. She started leaving notes for Brielle in her locker, friendly at first, pretending to be from a secret admirer, luring her into a sense of curiosity. The last note said, "Meet me in the art room at 5 p.m. I'll finally show you who I am." A heart was drawn at the bottom. Brielle showed up. What she didn't realize was that the girl waiting inside had already sealed the windows, taped the vents, and soaked the curtains with lighter fluid. Lena watched from behind a shelf, clutching a red gas can and a lighter, her breathing steady, her face blank. She stepped out just as Brielle turned to leave, startled. Lena smiled, flicked the lighter and said, "This is the last time you'll make me invisible." Then everything ignited. She had waited long enough. After years of being treated like a shadow, Lena was done blending into the background. The planning began not with a decision but with a feeling, a slow-burning hatred that began to calcify into purpose. What started as daydreams turned into blueprints. There was nothing accidental about what happened to Brielle. It was designed. Every piece of it. Lena's first move was subtle, access. She needed to know how to move through the school unseen, how to slip in and out without raising alarms. She began staying after school, claiming she was working on extra credit in the art room. No one questioned her. The art teacher, a frazzled woman juggling 2 part-time jobs, barely noticed. Lena cleaned up after herself, left no trace. But during those hours she roamed the halls. She tested doors, noted which ones were left unlocked. She watched the janitors learn their routines. She knew what time they started, how long they spent on each floor, and which areas they always skipped. Her second move was the storage room. Tucked behind the main art studio, it had been unused for months due to a broken ventilation system. The door still opened with a universal staff key, something Lena had acquired without anyone noticing. It's unclear how she got it. Some say she stole it from a distracted custodian. Others say she made a copy after sneaking into the front office. Whatever the method, the result was the same. She now had access to a forgotten space, out of sight, out of mind. She began transforming the room weeks before the incident. Slowly, carefully. First, she cleared away anything non-flammable. Then she brought in her own supplies, lighter fluid, gasoline siphoned from her neighbor's lawnmower, matches and rags. She stored everything in an old metal cabinet behind stacked canvases. There were no cameras in that wing. No one ever noticed. The walls, once covered in dust and forgotten student projects, became her canvas. But this time she didn't draw with pencils. She used fire. Burn marks scorched into old paper, melted plastic and blackened wood. She experimented. How long would it take for this to catch flame? How thick was the smoke? Would someone hear it? Each test brought her closer to perfecting the trap. The most chilling part wasn't the materials, it was her calm. She took notes on everything. She calculated angles, timed her actions, practiced her escape. She even began carrying a stopwatch in her hoodie pocket, checking how fast she could move from the storage room to the rear exit of the school. 35 seconds. That was her average. She could live with that. Then came the manipulation. She knew Brielle wouldn't come to her willingly, so she played a new role, one she had rehearsed in her head countless times. She wrote notes, styled them like secret admirer letters, laced with compliments and inside jokes she'd overheard Brielle make in the cafeteria. At first, Brielle laughed them off, posting snippets online to mock the creepy love notes she was getting. But Lena didn't stop. She changed the tone. She dropped details that made it clear this person wasn't a stranger. "I saw you Friday after 5th period," one note read. "Your blue sweater suits you better than you think." Another one said, "You looked upset after the math test. I wish I could have told you you'd be okay." Eventually, curiosity overpowered caution. The final note was delivered on a rainy Thursday, slipped into Brielle's locker sometime after lunch. It was simple, written in neat block letters. "Meet me today after school. Art room. No more games. You deserve to know who I am." A small heart drawn in the corner added a touch of naive sweetness. Brielle showed the note to her friends, giggling about her weird secret admirer. But something in her was intrigued. She told her friends she'd check it out, just for a laugh. At 4:58 p.m., Lena was already in position. She had doused the cloth-covered chairs with lighter fluid, arranged art supplies in a way that looked messy but deliberate, like nothing had been disturbed. The matches were tucked into her sleeve. Her hoodie was zipped, her face calm. Not excited. Not scared. Just still. Brielle entered the art room a few minutes later, casually, a half-smile on her face. She called out, "Hello?" No answer. She stepped further in. That's when Lena appeared from the shadows, quietly locking the door behind her. There was no yelling. No dramatic confrontation. Lena simply stood, holding a red gas can in one hand, a lit match in the other. Brielle laughed nervously, thinking it was some kind of twisted prank. She didn't move at first. Then Lena whispered something only the two of them heard. Brielle's face dropped. Her expression changed from confusion to fear. Lena dropped the match. The flames ignited instantly, climbing the soaked curtains, leaping onto the chairs. Panic filled the room. Brielle screamed, banging on the door, clawing at the handle. but it wouldn't budge. Smoke billowed. The fire alarm didn't trigger. The broken ventilation sealed their fate. From the hallway, no one would hear the screams in time. Lena didn't run. She watched for several seconds, face illuminated by the glow. Then she turned, unlocked the back door, and disappeared into the rain, calm as ever. The fire department wouldn't arrive for another 8 minutes. By then it was too late. Ask ChatGPT. The fire consumed the room in minutes. Screams echoed down empty hallways, swallowed quickly by thick black smoke and the crackling roar of flames. But by the time anyone noticed the flicker of firelight through the old art wing's windows, it was already too late. The girl inside, the one everyone adored, was gone, burned beyond recognition. What remained was a scorched skeleton surrounded by charred easels, melted paintbrushes, and the bitter smell of gasoline. No one wanted to believe it was Brielle. But they all knew. Outside, the rain poured steadily, drenching the sidewalks and washing soot from the air. Lena walked away without a single tremor in her step. Her hoodie soaked through, her face emotionless, she moved through the back exit like a shadow. Surveillance footage would later reveal her figure slipping down the alley behind the cafeteria, blending into the mist, unnoticed by the staff rushing toward the chaos. She didn't cry. She didn't run. She simply vanished. When the fire was extinguished, what was left of the art room was declared a structural hazard. Students were evacuated, and the school was closed for 2 days. Rumors spread like wildfire, faster than the flames ever had. Whispers of an accident at first, an electrical fault, maybe someone left a heater on. But that theory didn't last. The smell of accelerants was unmistakable. Fire investigators found the melted remnants of a red gas can buried beneath fallen ceiling tiles. It wasn't just a fire. It was arson. And someone had intended it. Police combed through the wreckage for clues. They reviewed camera footage from every entrance, hallway, and exit. Most of the cameras in the art wing were outdated or out of service. But the hallway just beyond the emergency exit captured a single frame, a hooded figure, partially turned, face obscured, leaving the building around 5:15 p.m. The time matched perfectly with when the fire had begun. When Lena arrived at school the next day, no one suspected a thing. She sat at her usual desk, quiet as ever, headphones in, eyes on the ground. She even joined the moment of silence held during the morning assembly. Teachers praised her composure. Other students barely noticed her. But one teacher, Ms. Baines, the art instructor, remembered something. The day before the fire, she'd seen Lena in the old storage room, said she was cleaning up her project. She thought it was odd but let it go. After all, Lena always kept to herself. That small detail was enough. The school handed over Lena's name to authorities for a routine interview. She didn't resist. She answered every question calmly, without hesitation. She even smiled once when asked if she knew Brielle personally. She was popular, Lena said. We weren't close. She claimed she was home at the time of the fire, alone, working on her sketchbook. No alibi. No witnesses. But then came the journal. During a follow-up visit to Lena's home, detectives asked to see her artwork. She agreed. It was all there, in the spiral notebook stacked beneath her bed. Page after page of flames, screams, buildings crumbling, a girl standing calmly outside a burning school. One drawing, dated 2 weeks before the fire, showed a figure identical to Brielle, tied to a chair, surrounded by dripping gasoline cans. In another, Lena had written a single phrase over and over again, "This will make them remember me." There was no denying it now. She was arrested that evening. In custody, Lena never cried. She never denied it. When asked why she did it, her answer was chillingly simple: because I wanted to be seen. Her tone wasn't angry or spiteful. It was flat, matter of fact, as if she were explaining a science project. The detectives expected rage, or regret, or even pride. What they got instead was nothingness. The trial was a media frenzy. News outlets branded her the silent inferno. Her mugshot, pale and vacant-eyed, was plastered across every screen. Court documents revealed everything: the stolen key, the collected accelerants, the anonymous notes to lure Brielle into the trap. Prosecutors painted Lena as a calculating monster. The defense argued mental illness, childhood neglect, bullying. They claimed she'd been failed by everyone around her. But the jury didn't waver. She was found guilty of first-degree murder and arson with intent to kill. Sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She didn't flinch when the verdict was read. She didn't look at her mother, sobbing quietly behind her in the courtroom. She only asked for one thing before being led away: to keep her sketchbook. Years later, a prison psychologist asked her if she regretted it. Lena looked up from her blank page, pencil in hand, and said, "She made me disappear every day. I just returned the favor." The story haunted Crestwood for years. Students refused to enter the rebuilt art room. Teachers retired early. And though memorials were held for Brielle every year, a strange silence hung over her name. Because deep down no one could explain it. No one could understand how the quiet girl, the one no one noticed, could hold so much darkness. But the truth was simple. She didn't explode. She didn't snap. She planned. She waited. And then, like a final, perfect drawing, she lit the match. Ask ChatGPT.